What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since 2003 and starting to get very optimistic about this Pistons team. The Detroit Pistons just got a huge win over the Portland Trail Blazers by a score of 118 to 115. That is the Pistons' fourth win in a row. The Pistons are officially 500. In this video, we are going to go through and highlight three player performances from this game, and then just talk about the game in general and where the Pistons are at, because man, things are finally looking up. So the first player that we do need to highlight is, of course, Cade Cunningham. He finishes the game with another just huge stat line: 32 points, 6 boards, 9 assists to go along with 2 steals, 4 turnovers. He was 11 of 23 from the floor and 4 of 10 from the three-point line. 32 points is a good scoring night from Cade, but it could have been a lot more. After Cade got over that 30-point mark pretty early in the fourth quarter, or towards the end of the third quarter, the Trailblazers made it a priority to get the ball out of his hands. He was seeing double teams every time he tried to initiate a pick and roll. They were sending 2 on him right away, and that was that. Throughout all that, he still managed to be a +8 on the night. 32 points, huge game for our soon-to-be first-time All-Star, Cade Cunningham. It's just crazy. He's just taken a leap. It's wild to see, especially noticeable with Ivey out. Since Ivey has gone down, Cade has had to take on even more of a scoring load and becoming that guy who's just taking a lot of shots every single game. So it's been really impressive to see, and couldn't be happier with the way things are going for Cade Cunningham. And now the next player that we do need to highlight had a huge night, a season high, the most points he has scored as a Piston, and that is Tim Hardaway Jr. He finishes the night with 26 points, no rebounds, no assists, no steals, no blocks, but that does not matter because all we needed him to do tonight was knock down some shots, and he did exactly that. He was 10 of 15 from the floor, 6 of 9 from the three-point line. A lot of super clutch buckets down the stretch of this game in the fourth quarter. They were very timely shots, and we needed all 26 from Tim Hardaway Jr. tonight. It was especially important to get this scoring output and this shooting output from THJ tonight, because Malik Beasley played what was probably his worst game of the season. Beasley was 1 of 10 from the field, 1 of 9 from 3, missed 2 free throws down the stretch, so safe to say that Malik Beasley had an off night tonight, and Tim Hardaway Jr., who has the most similar role to Beasley on this team, was able to pick up the slack and then some by getting a season-high 26 points. Very happy with the way Tim Hardaway Jr. played tonight. And the next guy we do need to highlight is going to be Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren finishes the game with a double-double, 14 points, 12 boards, and 4 assists. He was 7-11 from the floor, and I felt like he played one of his better games this season, at least one of his more steady games this season. Jalen Duren was able to clean up on the offensive glass. He got 6 offensive rebounds, and a game like this, a lot of them were just super important, including a huge dunk off a putback from a Cade miss down the stretch of the game in the last couple minutes. And I think things are looking up and trending in the right direction for Jalen Duren. I was a bit critical of him on this channel, never to the point where I was anywhere near talking about giving up on him, and I was always happy to point out the fact how young he was and still developing. But the reason why I felt that way is because the way that he played tonight should be the standard and can be the standard for Jalen Duren. And when Jalen Duren is playing the way that he played tonight, he is a very positive, impactful basketball player and has a whole lot of potential left in him at 21 years old. Especially, again, as we talked about with Tim Hardaway Jr. picking up the slack from Beasley having an off night, I felt like Isaiah Stewart had an off night tonight. Isaiah Stewart was 1 of 7 from the floor, 0 of 3 from 3, kind of doing some things that he hasn't been doing this year in tonight's game, and it didn't really work out for him. So as Beasley had a down game off the bench and Stewart had a down game off the bench, our guys Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jalen Duren were able to pick up the slack, and it was enough to get the win. Right now, just looking at the box score one more time here, it is pretty wild. All the starters were in the positives for the plus minus, and almost all of the bench players were in the negatives. So that's kind of the story of the night. Overall, just really proud of this team because they got down early, and for once in a long time, the Pistons were down 20 points in the first half, and it did not feel like the game was over. I remember watching the Pistons last year. They'd be trailing by 20 at halftime, and you could pretty much turn off your TV and go to bed because it was going to be what it was going to be at this point. When the Pistons went down 20 this game, on the back end of a 17-0 Trailblazers run, the Pistons answered with their own 17-1 run, and I could almost feel it coming. A lot of it was just fueled by Cade Cunningham, and you can count on Cade getting rolling at any point in any game now. So it's just really, really crazy how quick this team has turned around. Of course, we're not going to be fighting for the NBA Finals this year, all that type of stuff. But what I do know is right now is we have won, 8 of our last 9 games or something like that. 7 of our last 8, 8 of our last 9, something. I can trust this team to play against anybody. I know the Trailblazers are not anything special, but they're probably not as bad as you make it out to be either. Guys like Anthony Simons had a big night, Sharp had a big night, but most importantly is the Pistons advanced to 500 and are on a bit of a hot streak. I would trust this team to be able to play with any 30 teams, including themselves, in the NBA right now. So it's just super, super awesome to see. And, as I mentioned, the Trailblazers are the Trailblazers. You might look at them and say, oh, they're 12-23. If the Pistons are legit, they should be beating them by more. But most important thing is the Trailblazers played a pretty okay game tonight. The Trailblazers shot 45% from 3. Anthony Simons had 36 points on 8 of 12 shooting from 3, and the majority of those were contested. Shaedon Sharpe had a pretty nice game himself, having 20 points, 8 boards, and 8 assists. Ayton looked good. Deni Avdija, outside of a few boneheaded plays, was fine. Chris Murray gave him some good minutes. So it's not like we're playing against a G League team here. So the fact that they were just able to answer to another early run and take care of business against a team that they were favored to beat and should beat just really shows signs of improvement and steps in the right direction for the way that I view this Pistons team. All in all, I'm just really excited to see where this goes because right now the Pistons are playing the best basketball they have played in the last 5 years. The last time the Pistons played basketball this well was before the pandemic when Blake Griffin was on the team. So it's just really, really cool to see, and things are looking up and could get even better. I talked about it quite a few times now. I try not to look past these teams like the Trailblazers and Jazz and Hornets, but we do have a lot more teams like that on paper coming up. This week, I think we have to play the Nets and the Warriors. So these are all very winnable games in the short-term future. So there's a real world where the Pistons end up being 2 or 3 games above 500 really soon. And if that were to happen, things are going to get even more exciting. So let me know what you guys think. I thought this was a good win tonight, and I'll catch up with you guys soon.